Hello, I'm off on another junk hunt today, and this is the area where I grew up, so I know it quite well. I thought why not have a look around here before moving into the city. This is the series where I find other people's rubbish and use it to make stuff all in one video. This is episode 4, by the way. There'll be links to the earlier episodes below. I didn't expect to find much around here, to be honest, but I was dropping my boy off at my parents' house for the day and I figured I may as well have a look around, and it wasn't long before I came across these boxes on the side of the road, and these pieces of pottery caught my eye. These are by Hornsey. These are quite collectible, although not particularly valuable, and I really like the retro design, so I'm picking these up. Elsewhere, I found some kitchen cabinets which had solid oak fronts. But I've made a lot using kitchen cabinet fronts recently, so I decided to pass on these. Next to them in a box were some glass blocks. I love glass blocks. I fitted some to our bathroom while we were renovating our bungalow, but I really couldn't think of a use for these, so I'm going to leave them. And I didn't find anything else, so I headed home for a quick outfit change before heading into the city of Norwich. This pile of stuff was mostly melamine-faced chipboard, but amongst it was a bed headboard which I think I can make use of, and a small oak table, with some damage, but I'm definitely going to take this. And all in that same alleyway, yet more melamine-faced chipboard, some pressure-treated timber posts, and some 4x2. And ordinarily I would have took all of that, but I'm running out of storage space at the moment. Then I found this lampshade and fitting which gave me a great idea. It was on top of a bin, but I didn't want to take it without asking, so I knocked on the door. Unfortunately there was no answer, so I'm going to leave this behind because I don't want to take anything that I'm not 100% sure is being disposed of. Then I met probably the most beautiful cat I've ever seen. Last time I went down this alleyway, it was in a real state, but now it looks like maybe there's been some kind of community project with lots of homemade planters, which was nice to see. I met Ted the Tesco cat, who is a bit of a local celebrity. I'm not sure what this thing is, perhaps someone in the comments can let me know, but I decided to leave it. I also found an old bed frame, and these bed slats are so useful. But again, I'm not 100% sure that this is rubbish, so I'm going to have to leave it. Elsewhere, I found this hardwood garden chair, which I would have taken, but unfortunately it had signs of woodworm. This old car was cool. Unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be towed away soon. And then I saw the van of my dreams. I thought very seriously about buying one of these, if only I had more space. The next find was some discarded broken furniture, and there's a fair amount of usable hardwood here, so I'm definitely taking it. Four things I always carry with me on a junk hunt. The first is alcohol gel. People ask why I don't wear gloves, but when you're trying to operate a camera all the time, it just gets really annoying taking them off and putting them on again. Secondly, a knife. Obviously it's just for cutting things, comes in handy sometimes. Thirdly, my camera gear. This bag is full of tripods and accessories that I can use to mount my camera to various things. And finally, my phone, which might seem obvious, but actually I use it a lot for plotting locations on a map. So if I find something and I want to come back and pick it up, I know exactly where I'm going. And also, during these junk hunts, I often move my car around quite a lot, and sometimes I completely forget where I last parked. I also keep some very basic hand tools in the back of the car, just in case I need to cut anything down. But I'm going to call it a day there because I think I've got enough material to work with for the projects I've got in mind. So I got 2 vintage Hornsey pots, an oak table, broken, and a dining table, very broken, and a bed headboard. Let's see what we can do with it all. I particularly like this jar out of the two that I got on the junk hunt, and what I want to do is turn this into a lamp for our garden room, which I built a few months back because currently we don't have any lighting in there. And that lampshade and light fitting that I found on top of some bins would have been perfect for this. But you win some, you lose some. And up in the loft, I found this old broken lamp, so I'm going to try to salvage what I need from this. The first job is to get this apart, and the best way to do that seemed to be to remove the heat shrink stuff and disconnect the cables from these crimps. These pieces of rubber wood will certainly be useful at some point, but they are actually not why I took this headboard. What I want is this piece of tube here. This piece of tube has a curve to it, but I'm cutting such a short section that I don't think it will be noticeable. I file the ends nice and smooth and remove any burrs. Then I sand away the old silver paint, which will create a key for the new paint to adhere, and I'm using satin black. I had some of these Wago connectors left over from a previous job, which will make rewiring this quick and easy. I can then work out where to drill a hole so that I can run the cable through. Really, I should have some kind of rubber grommet here to stop any possibility of the sharp metal damaging the cable, so instead I'm filing it as smooth as possible, and I'll later get some hot glue in place so that the cable can't wiggle around. And I secure the bulb fitting with some hot glue. I did this before the hot glue gun had fully heated up to make sure that it's not so hot that it could damage the cable. I'm going to make a new lid for the jar, seeing as I want to keep the original lid just in case we ever want to use this as a jar again in future. And this piece of beech came from the old table that I salvaged earlier in the video. One of the pieces was bent like a banana, so cutting it into short pieces seemed a good use for it. I'll need an inner circle to complete the lid, which I shaped in the same way again. And if anything, this fitted a little too well. I got it glued to the underside of the beech lid, and then I can drill a hole with a 32mm hole saw to accommodate the tube. And I added a round over to what will be the top of the lid. I then used India ink to dye this beech jet black, which I would later come to regret, more on that later. And now to put it all together. I found this lampshade in a charity shop for £1. It'll do the job for now. This lamp is going to be powered by my BLUETTIKeith power unit. Whether you need power for adventure, emergency or everyday life, BLUETTIKeith have you covered. The BLUETTIKeith AC200L has taken care of all of our power needs in here and in the garden too for the past 4 months. And next time we have a power cut, which seems to happen all too often here in the countryside, it'll be useful in the house too. During that time, it's been charged exclusively by BLUETTIKEITH's 200-watt solar panels. There is of course the option of charging it up from a normal power socket too. The AC200L delivers 2,400 watts of AC output or 3,600 watts with powerlifting mode engaged via its 4 power sockets. It also has USB sockets too and fast charging. We use it mainly for powering a TV and my laptop when I need a quiet place to work, but we've also used it with our power-hungry 1300 watt pressure washer among other things, and it's performed flawlessly. BLUETTIKeith have a good range of products with bigger, more powerful units than this and smaller, more portable ones too, and there's an app that gives you the ability to monitor and control your power anytime, anywhere. But the main reason I love it is because if you remember when I built this garden room a few months back, running power from the house to here was going to be really problematic and expensive, and the BLUETTIKeith basically solves all of those issues. BLUETTIKeith will be running some great deals during Prime Day, so if you're interested, please check the link in the description to see what their power solutions can do for you. As I mentioned earlier, I regret dyeing the lid black. I think it would have looked better dark brown to better match the jar rather than black to match the tube. So maybe I'll sand it back and dye it brown one day. Now let's take a closer look at this broken dining table. And when I came across this, I recognised the name F.H. Marshall, who made a lot of utility furniture in the 40s and 50s. They made some nice Art Deco style pieces. Sadly, whatever this is, it's well beyond any hopes of restoration. I like to keep old flathead screws. They occasionally come in handy when restoring furniture. Right, so I've worked out what this piece of furniture was. In the end apron rails, you'll see there are 2 notches, and on the underside of these are some rails that are angled. So this would have been a Dutch leaf extension table, and these would have been the table extensions that sat either side of the central top. And the central top isn't here, unfortunately. And I actually made a Dutch extension leaf table on my channel a while back, and I kind of had to figure it out as I built it, and that's been a really popular project. I'll leave a link to it in the description box if you'd like to check it out. This has obviously been stored outside for some time though, which is why all of the wood is weathered and cracked. So I'm not sure how much of this is actually going to be usable. I'll start milling up this timber so that I can figure out what material I have to work with. And I have a project in mind, but I wasn't certain there would be enough here to work with. So I ended up with 4 lovely long pieces of oak, 4 short pieces, 3 pieces of beech. The 4th rail is bent like a banana, a couple of thinner pieces of beech, and it turns out these 4 legs are also beech, but there are so many splits in these that I'm not sure these are usable. In our utility room where we keep my work boots and pairs of shoes which don't get used very often, it's become a bit of a dumping ground. This needs to change. So I want to make something to help keep this space organised. Here, I'm picking the cleanest 2 pieces to use as the sides of the shelf. The other 2 pieces will be used on the underside. And I want to cut some rebates into these, using my 6mm flat tooth grooving blade. These last 2 short pieces of oak will be used as battens. I'll position these 150mm in from the ends. Now I need to figure out if I've got enough beech here to make the legs. And it looked like I could get 2 legs out of the longer piece. And then the shorter pieces I can use to make angled legs. So I mark up a 20-degree angle at the end. I can use my framing square to find the length for my angled legs and get those cut. And I want to make another cut where I can glue the 2 legs together. I'm also going to add a taper to the legs. And once sanded, I marked up where I wanted to cut a rebate to fix the legs and the shelf together. I can then fill any holes. And because beech isn't the nicest looking timber, I'm using India ink to make the beech jet black, as I think it'll contrast well against the oak. And I also really like the way the wood grain still shows through once dry. I did consider adding a rail at the back here just to prevent it from potentially racking, but unfortunately I don't have any material that's long enough for this span, because I do try and stick to only using the material that I found on this particular junk hunt. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to make some little glue blocks from some of the material that I'd cut away earlier. And I'm using hard wax oil as a finish, mainly because it's easy to touch up and repair, but it's also pretty durable, although I don't plan on putting any wet shoes on this rack or anything because I respect wood. The oak matches nicely with the other pieces of woodwork that I've installed in the space over the years, and I'm really happy with this. This table has a solid oak frame and legs, and this trim around the edge is also solid oak, but the top I can see is chipboard with an oak veneer. I'm going to fix it up and I'll probably just donate it to a charity shop because it'll be useful to someone. After a bit of sanding to make sure that the glue can adhere properly, I get some wood glue added to get it fixed in place. Right, this doesn't seem to want to clamp up straight. It keeps bending this way. The solution was to cut some notches into some scraps of MDF and use them as clamping cauls. There were a few veneer repairs needed, and I can tap my finger to identify any loose bits. I'm adding some foil tape to these blocks so that glue can't stick to it. And because I had run out of wood filler, I'm just going to rub some fine oak sawdust into the glue line. There were a couple of veneer chips too, so I'm going to melt in some hard wax repair stick. I then gave the top a thorough sanding by hand, being careful not to sand through the veneer, and I was a bit concerned about some of these dark water stains. So I thought I'd try mixing up some oxalic acid in some hot water. I kept topping it up every 10 minutes or so, and this is highly toxic, so you have to be really careful, avoiding skin contact and breathing in fumes. I then give it a thorough rinse and wait for it to dry. Usually this works really well on stains, but I've had that tub of acid for at least 7 years now, and I'm not convinced it works as well as it once did, so time to buy some more, I think. After a couple of coats of hard wax oil, the table is looking much better, but those stains are still visible. Thank you for watching.